Hello my dear friends, and welcome to my channel. My name is Barbara, and today we're going to be exploring the third eye chakra, also known as Ajna chakra in Sanskrit. So the chakras go way back to the Vedas. That's where they originally found them. These are ancient Indian scripts. So in this modern day and age, you might see and hear a lot about the chakras within the New Age. Keep in mind, anything that is New Age comes from something that is Old Age. It comes from ancient texts and scripts, so we have to honor where these findings do originate from. So the chakras, you will notice a lot of the time in the, New Age, people talk about it a lot. You'll also notice people talking about chakras maybe in a Reiki or yoga. You can maybe do certain yoga poses and postures to open up or focus on certain chakras within the body. And you'll notice if you do take on a yoga practice of some sort and you're maybe going into the postures, instead of maybe posting it on your Instagram pictures and stories, you will notice that if you're actually doing the postures and you're going through the breath work and you're paying attention, you'll see that maybe in some areas within your body, you might be struggling with that particular chakra that is connected to that particular pose. Now, the chakras within our body are the energy centers. So with the chakras in this series, I am exploring the 7 main chakras within the body, but I've heard that we have up to thousands. People say that any energy center within our body is pertaining to some form of particular chakra. Makes sense, okay, because if we do go through even trauma work and healing and clearing, or maybe you just go for a massage and someone presses on that pressure point, or maybe you do some form of exercise, you might find yourself purging. Maybe something comes to the surface, maybe you find yourself like really angry and raging, and it's like, where's this coming from? Well, maybe something has come to the surface to be looked at, explored, and cleared. So if you guys have been following the series thus far, we have arrived to the third eye chakra. These are my favorite chakras, the psychic gifts and abilities, third eye and crown. In this video, we're going to be focusing mainly on the third eye chakra. It is located between your brows, and this is your intuition, okay? So whether you want to use the term psychic gifts and abilities or intuition or intuitive center, this is where your intuition is going to be located. Interestingly enough, I do find that the third eye is connected to the sacral chakra. Now here's my disclaimer in the video. Some things that I will be mentioning in here are traditionally things associated with the chakras. Other things are going to be things that I have observed either through time, myself, people, clients back in the day when I did used to practice Reiki. So these are all of the information that I have gathered on this particular chakra. As usual, you guys can take what resonates, leave behind what does not, and of course, formulate your own opinions pertaining to these particular energy centers. So with the third eye chakra, this is where your intuition lies. Basically, personally, what I've noticed is that the chakras are all connected. They're all connected with each other. So if one is out of balance, another one is going to be compensating for that particular chakra. And in terms of energy work and energy healing, the way that I learned it, at least, and it's true, you know, we never want to say energy blockage or something of the sort, because sometimes people freak out and they think that there's something wrong with them. There's nothing really wrong with anybody. That's important to understand. It's just we're trying to clear things that have basically been a part of this energetic plane, so we can kind of come to that root of the soul and of the self. That is kind of like the end goal here. Clear ourselves of things that we might think we want, or going in directions that we think we want to go in. And this is why the third eye is really, really important, and it's connected to that sacral and sometimes even solar plexus in a way if we think about gut feeling and having a bad vibe and all these types of things. So this is why everything is really, really connected within the body. In these videos, I have been mentioning the element that is connected with the chakra. So for the third eye, as per Google, it does say that it is light. Makes sense though, if you really, really do think about it, because if we think about enlightened beings, right? They're in their higher chakras, they're operating out of the higher chakra space. And this is a struggle, okay? Because it's like, I don't know how it is now, but at least back in the day when there wasn't as much information online, if you would type in third eye chakra into Google, you would get a lot of negative information come at you. It'll say things like, don't open your third eye, it's negative to open your third eye, like all these things are going to happen if you open your third eye chakra. But I think a lot of this actually stems from basically not working through the lower chakra first. Or sometimes people are super psychic and open in their third eye, for example, but they haven't integrated the lower chakra wounds, the fears, all these dark emotions, maybe ancestral or whatever it is, that could be pulling you into the earth plane. So this is why you're going to have different level psychics I did talk about this in my Getting in Tune with Your Psychic Gifts and Abilities. It's interesting because at every level of consciousness, there is a form of psychic because the person is psychically open. They do have these gifts, but it's like you can only see as far as you can see. Do you know what I mean? So this is what the third eye is all about. So the third eye is that gift of seeing. It's the gift of clairvoyance. It's the gift of sight. Okay, so seeing things that might not be in the physical plane. Now, I'm not saying that if you focus on the third eye chakra, something's gonna pop out of your closet. It doesn't really work this way, okay? But you know, sometimes it's in your mind's eye, okay? You get a vision. That's kind of how the third eye chakra works. So some people are gifted with actually seeing things other people might not see in this physical plane and in this physical reality. But a lot of the time it depends on you as a person and how you receive psychic information. So if you're someone that's going to be freaked out if something pops out of your closet, well, probably it's not going to come through this way. It might come through your psychic vision, through your third eye. You kind of see it in your mind's eye is really what that is. So that's kind of how clairvoyance is going to work. So it'll either be, you'll see it in the physical plane. Some people can see auras. Some people can see energies, like certain colors for energies that are floating around and lingering around. All these wonderful things are connected to the third eye. But there is a but here, okay? You could go into the shadow of the third eye. Let's say you open the third eye before you have integrated your lower chakra wounds, or some people are just psychically open. I actually do have a video on the connection between trauma, cognitive dissonance, psychic gifts abilities, and your spiritual awakening, because all these things are connected. So if the third eye is prematurely open, or maybe you're just naturally psychic, but maybe you're someone who has a lot of fear, well, then you might fall into energies of, let's say, paranoia, for example. This is how that works. Or trying to mentally prepare yourself for something or something that might happen. That's all connected to trauma. So this is why healing is really, really important. And this is why when we're working through the chakras, we always want to start from the bottom, because when you're grounded, okay, when you have those strong roots, remember when we talked about in that first chakra video, if you're new here, definitely go in order and check out the root chakra video. So in the root chakra video, we basically talked about how the majority of the tree is in the roots. So you want to be grounded enough as a person, as a being, at least in this physical plane and in this physical reality, to receive psychic information in a grounded way. That's going to perhaps apply to the current times that we're living in, because now I see online, especially, a lot of people's gifts are coming online, which is amazing, but they might not be grounded in them yet. And that's a journey for everybody. Everybody goes through it. Everybody goes through this journey where it's like you start tapping into psychic information, but it's like it might not pertain to this particular time, or it's like you might not know what to do with that particular information that you're receiving. So that's kind of how it works. You really want to be grounded as a person, grounded in this physical plane and in this physical reality. And it's interesting because in my Getting in Tune with Your Psychic Gifts and Abilities video, I talked about how the ultimate end goal for psychic gifts and abilities is for yourself. It's for yourself. So when you get that psychic gift and ability coming online, probably the first thing a lot of people do and will want to do is to share it with people, is to maybe put it out there for whatever reason, whether they think they're trying to warn someone about something that's meant to happen. But that's kind of like a tricky area. It's kind of like a tricky area. I get where the sentiment comes from. Once again, I was once there myself. So I get where the sentiment comes from, where people are trying to warn people, or it's like I had this dream and I had this thing come through. But at the same time, because of the level of consciousness that the collective is at, they might take that in the negative sense and then inadvertently manifest it and create it. I hope that makes sense. So it's like, it's interesting to see, because when we look at religious scriptures and the core and root of religious scriptures, it actually kind of makes sense when they kind of quote unquote condemn psychics. And unfortunately, this has been kind of twisted in a very negative way, because there's a lot of negativity associated with feminine energy and the psychic gifts and abilities that the feminine energy does bring, regardless of whatever gender you're born into. Personally, I think it's because the feminine energy is what's going to break us out of this plane. I'm just slipping that in there. Anyways. So that's the whole thing here, but a whole other aspect of it is like, first of all, when you predict something for someone, there's a few things that are taking place here. You are now karmically entangling yourself with that person. So it makes sense from that place. Okay, the karma is now on you. You have said to this person, this thing is going to happen. So now there's a karmic attachment. Now the responsibility is energetically on you, because you kind of put it out there. And I'm not really trying to fear monger in this video, because sometimes that's what happens when people hear these types of things. It's not really this, it's just a responsibility, okay, that is attached with being a psychic person and understanding, almost like a regulation type of thing. I know it's an industry that can't really be regulated, but it's kind of like you have to kind of feel into things. It comes back to the heart space and the heart center to see, is this information that I'm providing this person going to actually benefit them? Because then we have something that I personally call 3D psychics. If you guys have been on this channel, you guys have probably heard that in my previous video where I talk about getting in tune with your psychic gifts and abilities. And these 3D psychics sometimes have a wound that's taking place within them. And sometimes what happens is like they start to take advantage of the gifts that they have, but they're also taking advantage of people. So sometimes they might say something to someone where it's like, oh, this is gonna happen to this person if you don't buy this $1,000 candle. Do you know what I mean? I hope you guys are catching my drift. So this is what I mean. And now the negative karma is on them, basically because they lied and they have taken advantage of a vulnerable person. Because if you're a psychic person, usually people's last place when they have exhausted all the other options is them coming to a psychic person. And just because of the nature of the plane and the narcissism that exists within everybody and the survival and the money wound and all these things, people might take advantage of this. So important to keep in mind whether you're a psychic person who is doing psychic work or whether you are a person who is going to psychics. So important to keep this in mind. Obviously, it's not always going to be this case. All types of people go to psychics for different types of reasons. Psychics are going to help, obviously, in a positive sense as well. I'm kind of just giving you guys the example of how the energy can manifest when it's in its extreme shadow form. And I always see that little meme that I found once. I have to find it. If I find it, I will put it in this video because I have mentioned it before, where it's like your psychic gifts come online, but you don't really know what to do with them. And it was like nude psychic readings or something like that. I'll post it in here if I do find it. But that's kind of like the overall vibe when they do come online. You might not know what to do with them. Usually you're going to probably be someone who might want to help people. So you might want to help people and that could be the intention behind it. But it's interesting because it's like if you're kind of going into the world and that's your work and that's the only thing that you're doing for work, you really have had to integrate it. A lot of these lower chakra wounds that we have talked about in the previous videos as well, the money wound, the abandonment wound, the codependent wound. You might have a codependent dynamic with clients. So just important to keep these things in mind because the divine version of psychic gifts and abilities, at least the way that I see it at this point in time, okay, at this point in time is creativity. Okay, this is where your creativity is. So it's creating something, whether it's creating life for yourself or creating art, or whether it is getting information and then sharing it with people, and that's going to inspire people in one way, shape, or form. So that's kind of like the very positive version of psychic gifts and abilities because it is in your mind's eye. This is where your imagination is. It's kind of where you go off and you're visualizing and you're envisioning things. So how can this chakra be hijacked? Absolutely can be hijacked through visual things. I'm going to slip that in there. So it's like, because we are such visual creatures as humans, all of us, whatever we see, we connect our energy to that thing. Sometimes we think we want that thing because we saw it, especially these days when we look at social media and things that are constantly fed to us. We're in a very, very visual era. Back in the day, it was just televisions, and that was kind of like the visualization aspect of things, including maybe ads and advertisements. But these days, it's like coming left, right, and center. So once again, this is why it's really important to come in tune with who you truly are at the core. What is it that you want? Is it something that you want for yourself, or is it an ego-driven desire? And a lot of the time, a way to differentiate this is why you need to have the heart space developed, is when you do attain the ego-driven desire, you might feel empty, unfulfilled, unhappy, kind of like, it's not what I thought it was. That's kind of how it works. And that's how you'll know that that was something egoic. But the only way to get to that point of understanding that is to go through it. You know what I mean? So that's why sometimes when you have a vision or you want to do something for yourself, is the best thing to do is to actually act on that thing and go after that thing and then see, is it something that I wanted? Is it something that I romanticized? Is it something that I thought I wanted that was fed to me? So this is important to understand. And once again, this is why the heart chakra is really, really important, that heart space, because the discernment is really going to help you get in tune more with your psychic gifts and abilities and more with that intuition and that third eye and trusting it more and more. So a lot of the time when I teach anything to do with psychic gifts and abilities, although it is really hard to teach, but at least with intuition, what I usually say to people is your first thought is going to be your intuition. So whatever you first thought of, okay, whatever the first feeling was, the gut feeling, you have to train yourself to start to think of what was that first thought. Anything else to follow is your ego. Anything else to follow is your ego trying to convince you otherwise. That doesn't make sense. Don't do it. This is the reason. This type of doubt. That's basically the emotion behind the third eye chakra, like the negative emotion. It's going to be doubt. So anytime you're doubting yourself or you don't know which way to go or you don't see things clearly, that's another way that you'll know that your third eye chakra is underdeveloped. Because the thing is, when you have your third eye chakra in its full fruition, development, you're basically living life through the higher self in a way, I guess, for lack of a better term, or through the higher vibrations or through things that are really resonating with you and with your soul. And it's always pulling you in that direction. And a lot of the time, a good way to get in tune with this is to kind of like try to get into that mindless meditative state. So you'll notice when you're doing something repetitive, or you're maybe cleaning, or you're actually meditating and lying down, or maybe you're on a walk, or maybe you're listening to your favorite song on repeat, like whatever it is, it'll help you get into that meditative state where now the logical mind is not at play. You're more in the intuitive mind, and the intuitive mind is very much connected with feeling and emotion. And a lot of people have been stripped of this because unfortunately feelings have been demonized. Unfortunately. So it's like you want to get in tune with your feelings, the emotions, and then separate yourself. So this is why healing is important. Clearing people's energy off of you is important. Clearing societal expectations, opinions, things that once again you thought you wanted but weren't actually for you. What I will say is like things are never going to be how you think they're going to be. I hope that makes sense. So it's never going to be how you think it looks like. You know what I mean? So like let's say for example, you know, you might have this huge desire to be a singer. So try it out. I always say that to people, like try it out and see, is it something that you wanted or is it something that you romanticize? And then you can dig deeper. Okay, well, what did I like about that? Or what resonated with me about that particular role? Is it the music? Is it the crowd? Is it the presentation? Is it the attention? Is it being on a stage? Like, what is it that resonated? And the more that you do these things, the more you learn about yourself and you get back to the core of the soul. And the ultimate end goal, at least the way that I see it, is we really want to clear all of these egoic things that kind of keep us coming back down to this earth plane. I do have a video called How to Clear Karma. I believe I talk about it in there. Once again, just my own beliefs from my own experience, my lived experience on this earth plane. That's how I formulate my own beliefs. You guys can take what resonates and leave behind what does not, and you guys can create your own beliefs through your own experiences. So that's the whole thing here, okay? So you really want to get to the core of the person, and then when you're living through your intuition and your third eye, boom, you get an idea. It might be the wildest idea, like it's raining today, but I really want to go to this paint store. And you go to the painting store, and it's like, it was raining, it was pouring, and the ego would have been like, no, stay home, stay cozy, because the ego wants to keep you comfortable. It's this constant battle between ego versus heart slash the intuition slash that third eye chakra. Let's say in this particular situation, you listen to that third eye chakra, you listen to that visualization, you got that idea in your mind, and you go to that store. Who knows? You bump into an old friend or you meet someone new, and this person tells you about an event. And this is kind of how you end up where you're meant to be, at least the way that I've seen it. But it's interesting because society is the opposite to that. Keep yourself in a structure, work this type of job, get these types of accolades, get that type of degree, and then that type of degree, and then that label, and that label, and climb and climb and climb. And then at the end of it all, what did you climb to? So a lot of this really is all about reconnecting to the inner child. The younger generations don't have as much of a problem with this because they're already kind of attuned to that frequency. They're already more in their intuition. They're already, in a way, quote unquote, higher vibrational, for lack of a better term. Once again, it's not a hierarchical thing. It's just a vibrational thing. So people who have lived on this planet longer struggle to get more in tune with their intuition because there's a story that's been sold, right? So we're coming out of that right now and we're going into higher vibrational times. So the younger people and the younger generations are already equipped with this. And you'll notice that, like, children, even when you were a child, maybe you're a part of the older generations, but you'll notice children always pick up on things. They notice things. They might have an imaginary friend and maybe they actually see that friend. And these are the types of things that are all third eye chakra related. So it's like a lot of the older generations are getting in tune with their third eye chakra, visualization, intuition, all these types of things, whereas the younger generations and the ones that are to come already kind of have this built in and they don't have as much of a resistance to it. So we're kind of meeting somewhere in the middle as we go through this whole process of basically leaving the old way of being. I'm kind of talking in code a little bit here, so you guys are going to have to use your third eye chakra to read between the lines. I'm sending you guys the telepathy. So everything is basically happening in the third eye chakra, and the way to get in tune with it is to clear anything in here that is not yours, that was put upon you, that was placed upon you, that you think you wanted. And honestly, the only way to do this is to get in tune with that heart space, heart resonance, and really feel into things. Is this in resonance? Okay, is this something that I really want to do? And it's like the more you get in tune with it, then you'll be able to visualize yourself maybe in that particular situation. For example, this is how I do it, so it might resonate with some of you guys out there. Let's say there's something that I'm debating between, should I go to this event or should I go to the store today, for example. What I do is I picture myself in that place and then I feel into it. So that is how I use that energy. I feel into it. Okay, at that event, what does it feel like? Is there resistance within my body? Does it feel like a lot of work? That's usually how I know that I'm meant to be either doing something or not doing something. If I feel into something and it feels like a lot of work, or getting there is a lot of work, or it feels really tiring or intense, then I'm probably not meant to be doing that thing. This other thing is more in resonance. I feel into it. There's less resistance within my body. It feels easier. It feels smoother. So this is why you have to get in tune with the feeling. And one of the best things that I've ever heard in terms of when we're in times of uncertainty, because we are going to be going in more and more times of uncertainty. So people are really going to be forced to start to trust themselves, their inner muscle, their inner intuition, and their connection to the creator. But that's going to be crown chakra. So that's the preview for the crown chakra video. But the best thing that I've ever heard was choose the path of least resistance. But you really have to be like logical in it. If your path of least resistance is sitting at home and like chilling and like, going into the shadow of that energy, then maybe that's not the path of least resistance. But what I mean by this is like if you're faced with two decisions, maybe the path of least resistance is in that case to stay home, for example. So this is why you have to know yourself. It's like, am I engaging with my shadow behavior where it's like I'm just being lazy and I don't want to do something in this particular example that I gave you guys? Or is it my actual intuition that's telling me, don't do that thing today because this other thing is the path of least resistance, okay? So that might help you guys. Anytime there are any times of uncertainty, you want to choose the path of least resistance. And this is why, once again, we're working from the bottom up in terms of the chakras, because you really have to get in tune with your emotions and the feeling into things, seeing where do I have resistance. And sometimes, now I might throw you guys into a loop, but sometimes the resistance could also be your ego. So this is why you really have to learn yourself. So in terms of the third eye, the intuition, the psychic gifts and abilities, it really does work with the sacral chakra a lot. So a lot of your emotions are stored in the sacral chakra, and then also the heart space. Like I mentioned, when you are in alignment, you're operating under the heart space. Now keep in mind, things do take place on this earth plane. You might be thrown out of alignment. So if you're not in alignment, don't be hard on yourself either. Just kind of figure out a way to pull yourself back into alignment. And the more you do that, the less you're affected by external things. That's the whole thing here. We always want to bring the energy back to us, bring our power back to us. If there's something that is bothering you or triggering you or upsetting you, you have to explore that, because we're not bypassing here. So that's another thing that happens for people when their third eye chakra comes online. And I don't know, maybe this is going to be like some harsh truths, but the thing is like sometimes when people's psychic gifts come online, they go into bypassing energy. So they don't want to deal with the lower emotions and the lower feelings and the things that are uncomfortable and coming up. And you'll notice this a lot of the time when people talk about the law of attraction or manifestation or changing the way that you think. And personally, this is why I think a lot of modern day techniques, I'm gonna have to talk between the lines here, because once again, I'm not any form of medical or psychology or any professional in that way. But I think a lot of modern day techniques don't really help people, because it's kind of like a band-aid. There's a band-aid that gets placed upon it. So a lot of the time people are going to be like, replace your negative thoughts with positive ones. That might work for a period of time, but there could be an event that takes place that kind of shakes you out of that and kind of brings you back into that same place before you put that band-aid on top of it. So this is why we have to get to the root of the problem. That's what everything is rooted in, from my own belief system. You have to get to the root of the problem. Where is the issue stemming from? Usually the original two caregivers. Something took place here. Was it a lack of love, a lack of attention? Maybe you not being accepted for the person that you are. Maybe your emotions not having the space held for them, or whatever. Maybe you were different in one way, shape, or form. Maybe the parents didn't know how to hold space for that. Or maybe they saw you as an extension of themselves, and then they couldn't differentiate between you and themselves. Whatever it is, okay? There's so many different things that it could be, but you want to get to the root of that. And then when you get to the root of the issue and you know what it is, then you will know how to clear it. That's how you transmute things, and that is how we go into the higher and higher chakras. We have to get to the root of it. That's really what it all comes down to. So as much as the psychic world is fun and exciting and entertaining, and it's amazing, I love it, it can also turn into an escapism for people if you haven't integrated those lower chakra wounds. So you will see this, especially with the new age and things like plant medicine. That's a whole conversation of its own. These things kind of open you up. It opens you up to the psychic world, and it's exciting because as a species, we have been stripped of that. So it really is exciting. But the thing is, if you haven't cleared your lower stuff, the excitement and the high and whatever it is only going to last for a period of time until you come back down. So this is why when we're clearing, a lot of things are rooted in shadow work and going into that lower subconscious and the underworld. Sometimes they used to call it back in the day in like shamanic texts and these types of things. You want to go into the underworld. That's how you clear, right? You go down and you clear what's going on with the lower chakras. And that's why we started with the lower chakras in this series. You clear what's going on in there, and then you can go into the higher chakras and you can start having fun, and you can kind of be in that playground type of energy. But you'll bounce back and forth. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean now that you have to be stuck in the root and the lower chakras and like clearing that. You might be doing that for a period of time. Psychic gifts come online. Great. Integrate that. Okay. Now we go back. Okay. What's clearing? What's happening here? Clear that. Eventually you do come into some form of equilibrium where it's like you've cleared the majority of stuff. I will say it is an ongoing journey, but at the end of the day, a lot of things are just patterns. And like I've mentioned, a lot of things are also things that have been placed upon us from the overall energetic structure, for lack of a better term. But overall, this is the idea with the third eye chakra located in your forehead between the eyes. If the third eye chakra is congested in any way, or you're not seeing things, or you don't want to see things, you'll have headaches or anything going on with that particular area. Not a medical professional. Anything going on with that particular area is going to be a good indication to let you know something is happening with my third eye. I am not seeing something. I don't want to see something. There's something here that's not being seen. So that's how you'll know. And doubt is also going to tell you, and just being unsure, okay, unsure of your path, unsure of which way to go. That is an underdeveloped third eye chakra in the beginning for everybody. Okay, when the psychic gifts come online, you might need guidance, you might need, someone to kind of help you reel it all in. But a balanced person, you no longer need these things. Okay, so you have the training wheels. I mentioned this in my Getting in Tune with Your Psychic Gifts and Abilities video. Whether that is your cards, the tarot cards, oracle cards, pendulums, all these types of things are fun and exciting and great in the beginning. But we want to eventually take the training wheels off, because then you're just going to be in tune with your own self. So in the beginning, it's confirming for you, or validating, maybe is the word here. Validating your intuition. Yes, you're right. You're on point. You're on the right track. You're growing that muscle. It is a muscle just like any other muscle. And the more you start to believe in it and the more you start to trust it, the easier everything is, because you're living in the flow of yourself. Everyone has their own trajectory and every soul has its own path. And a lot of that, once again, has been stripped from people and humanity because of the boxes that have been created. So that's all I'm going to say about that. So with all that being said, I'm going to wrap up this video here on the third eye chakra. I hope you guys enjoyed my video. If you did, please do like, share, and subscribe. And I hope you all have a beautiful rest of the day.